Today, we're diving into performance evaluation tools and effective feedback. We'll explore how to identify high-potential employees, create tailored development plans, and ensure leadership continuity within the organization. This framework is designed to help us not only recognize talent, but also support their growth to meet future leadership needs. This approach is key to building a strong, capable team that drives long-term success. On this slide, we're focusing on the key learning objectives of our training. By the end of our time together, you'll be able to select and apply the right performance evaluation tools tailored to your specific context. You'll also know how to deliver feedback that's not only specific and timely, but also firmly based on observed behavior, which makes it much more effective. Then, we'll cover how to identify high-potential employees using structured criteria, so you can recognize future leaders early. Additionally, you'll learn to build development plans that are both realistic and measurable, ensuring continuous growth. Finally, we'll explore how to put succession planning into action, making leadership continuity a deliberate organizational priority, not just an afterthought. These are the essential skills that will help you manage and develop talent more strategically. In this section, we're focusing on what performance evaluation actually means. It's important to understand that this is not just a once-a-year task. Instead, it's a structured process of observing, measuring, and communicating an employee's performance in relation to clearly defined expectations. This process involves ongoing conversations between leaders and team members, supported by documented evidence and clear standards. When performed effectively, evaluations serve two key purposes. They provide employees with an honest understanding of where they stand, and they give the organization the essential data needed to make informed decisions about development, compensation, and succession. When we talk about evaluation tools, it's really about creating fairness and consistency in how we assess performance. Without a clear structure, evaluations can become nothing more than conversations influenced by recent memories or personal biases. For example, a manager who's had a tough week with an employee might rate them more harshly than they would during a good week, which just isn't fair and can be costly for the organization. On the other hand, when we use structured evaluation tools, they establish a shared language between managers and employees. This reduces subjectivity and makes ratings more consistent. Plus, it helps track progress over time and provides a documented record to protect the company from any legal risks related to performance decisions. So, structure isn't just helpful, it's essential. Here we highlight the most widely used evaluation tools in performance management. First, we have rating scales, which use numerical or descriptive scores to evaluate performance against defined competencies. These are popular because they're simple to use and easy to aggregate across teams. Next, behavioral anchors or bars add more precision by linking specific observable behaviors to each rating level, which helps reduce ambiguity when scoring. Then, management by objectives, or MBO, evaluates performance based on pre-agreed goals. This method works best when objectives are clear, measurable, and within the employee's control. Finally, 360-degree feedback gathers input from peers, direct reports, and supervisors, providing a fuller picture of how an employee operates across different relationships. Each of these tools offers unique benefits depending on the context and goals of the evaluation. When we talk about rating scales, we're looking at a system that assigns a numeric or descriptive value to each competency being evaluated. Typically, this scale runs from 1 to 5, where 1 means performance is well below expectations, and 5 means the employee consistently performs above what's required for the role. The key challenge here is consistency. Without clear definitions, two managers might score the same behavior very differently. To avoid this, your organization needs to define exactly what each level means for every competency. For example, a rating of 4 in communication should be tied to specific, observable actions rather than vague impressions. Another crucial step is to always calibrate scores across managers before sharing results with employees. These calibration sessions are the most effective way to minimize inconsistencies and ensure fair evaluations. Behaviorally anchored rating scales, or BARs, are among the most rigorous evaluation tools out there. What makes them so effective is that each rating level is tied to a specific, concrete example behavior. This approach removes the guesswork from scoring, making performance reviews much clearer and more productive. To create a bar system, you start by pinpointing the key competencies for a role. Then, for each competency, you gather examples of behaviors that illustrate poor, acceptable, and excellent performance. These examples act as anchors. So, instead of assigning an abstract number, a manager matches an employee's observed behavior to one of these anchors, which leads to a much more precise and fair evaluation. Management by objectives, or MBO, is all about collaboration and clarity. First, it's crucial to set the objective together with the employee. When the goal is co-created, there's a stronger sense of ownership and commitment. Goals handed down without discussion often fail to motivate. The initial conversation is just as important as the review at the end of the cycle. Next, the goal has to be measurable. Vague targets like improving customer satisfaction don't give us a clear way to track progress. Instead, we want specific indicators, such as achieving a customer satisfaction score of 85 or above by the end of the third quarter. This helps everyone understand exactly what success looks like. Finally, regular reviews are key. Checking in mid-cycle allows us to adapt if circumstances change. A goal set in January might no longer be relevant by June, especially if the business environment shifts. These check-ins ensure the objectives stay aligned and achievable. 360-degree feedback offers a unique advantage by revealing how an employee is perceived by their colleagues, not just their manager. This method helps uncover blind spots that a traditional review might miss, making it especially valuable for senior roles where peer relationships and team dynamics are crucial. However, it's important to be cautious. Without careful design, 360 feedback can turn into a platform for airing personal grievances rather than offering constructive insights. Maintaining anonymity is key, but so is training respondents to focus on specific behaviors instead of personal attacks. And importantly, 360 feedback should never be the only factor in decisions about compensation or promotions. When used correctly, it can be a powerful tool for development and growth. Now, let's dive into Section 2, which focuses on effective feedback as a foundation of strong leadership. It's important to understand that feedback and evaluation are not the same. Evaluation is a formal process that happens at specific times throughout the year, like annual reviews. Feedback, on the other hand, is continuous and happens in the moment, right after you observe behavior. Research consistently shows that employees who get regular and specific feedback not only perform better, but are also more likely to stay with the company longer. So, as a leader, the frequency and quality of the feedback you provide have a direct impact on your team's performance. This means making feedback a natural part of everyday interactions, not just something reserved for formal meetings. Effective feedback is all about being specific, timely, balanced, and forward-focused. First, specificity means focusing on concrete, observable behaviors rather than vague traits. For example, saying your report last Tuesday was missing the financial summary section is much more helpful than just saying you are disorganized. Next, timely feedback is crucial. Addressing issues close to when they happen is far more impactful than waiting weeks or even months, because memories fade and delays can hinder improvement. Balanced feedback includes both positive aspects and areas that need change. This isn't about sugarcoating criticism, but rather providing a clear, accurate picture of performance. Finally, Forward-focused feedback looks beyond just what happened. It highlights what a better outcome could be, giving employees actionable guidance to improve. Together, these elements make feedback truly effective. The SBI feedback model is a straightforward way to provide feedback without causing defensiveness. It works by clearly separating what you observe from your interpretation, which is often where misunderstandings arise. First, you describe the specific situation, like during the client presentation on Monday morning. Next, you focus on behavior you saw, making sure to stick to the facts. For example, you interrupted the client twice before they finished speaking. Finally, you explain the impact of that behavior, such as, and the client appeared to disengage for the rest of the meeting. This method helps keep feedback clear and constructive, making it easier for others to receive and act on it. One common mistake leaders make is using feedback sandwiches. The idea is to place criticism between two pieces of praise, but this often backfires. Employees tend to focus on the praise and dismiss the critical points. Instead, if you have a developmental point, address it directly and constructively. Another mistake is generalizing from a single event. For example, one difficult meeting doesn't define someone's communication style, and one missed deadline doesn't make someone unreliable. Effective feedback zeroes in on the specific event rather than labeling permanent traits. Finally, giving feedback without follow-up is a big pitfall. If you don't revisit the feedback, it sends a message that it wasn't important. Always agree on what changes will happen, and when you'll check back in. This keeps the feedback process meaningful and actionable. Giving difficult feedback with confidence is crucial for effective leadership. Many leaders hesitate because they worry about damaging relationships or causing emotional reactions. However, avoiding these conversations can be even more harmful because performance issues tend to grow, impact the whole team, and become harder to resolve over time. To handle this well, prepare your key points ahead of time. Focus on behavior and its impact rather than personal traits, and avoid watering down your message so it loses clarity. Remember, difficult feedback should be a dialogue, not a one-sided verdict, so make sure to give space for the employee to respond and engage in the conversation. Receiving feedback as a leader is crucial because it sets the tone for your entire team. Leaders who openly accept feedback show that it's a natural part of professional growth, not something to fear. If you respond defensively, your team will likely do the same when it's their turn to receive feedback. When you get feedback, your first priority is to listen fully without interrupting. Instead of jumping to defend yourself, ask questions to better understand perspective. Always thank the person giving the feedback. Even if you don't agree with everything they say, then take time privately to decide what you'll do with the input and clearly communicate your decision. This approach not only builds trust, but also promotes a healthy feedback culture. Now, let's focus on identifying high potential employees. It's important to understand that high potential is not the same as high performance. While a high-performing employee consistently meets or exceeds expectations in their current role, a high-potential employee shows the ability to grow into a role with greater scope, complexity, or responsibility. These qualities can overlap, but often they do not. One of the most common and costly mistakes in talent management is confusing the two, promoting someone solely based on current performance, without evaluating their capacity for growth, can put them in a position where they are likely to struggle. When we talk about the three dimensions of potential, we're looking at ability, aspiration, and engagement. First, ability is the cognitive and technical capacity to handle greater complexity. This means how quickly someone learns, how well they manage ambiguous information, and how effectively they apply new concepts in unfamiliar situations. Moving on to aspiration, this is a genuine desire to take on greater responsibility. It's important to note that potential without aspiration is a misalignment. because not every high performer wants to lead, and that choice should be respected. Finally, engagement reflects the level of commitment and energy an employee brings to their work and the organization. An engaged employee is more likely to succeed and stay, while disengagement can lead to retention risks and inconsistent performance, especially in stretch roles. These three dimensions together give us a clear picture of true potential. On this slide, we're focusing on three key signals to look for in daily work that indicate high potential in employees. First, learning agility stands out as a crucial trait. High potential employees don't just stick to what they know. They actively seek new experiences and ask questions that push beyond their current role. When they make mistakes, they take the time to reflect and adjust, showing a pattern of learning in action that's incredibly reliable for identifying future success. Next, we see the importance of taking ownership beyond the job description. These employees consistently take responsibility not only for their tasks, but also for the outcomes. They don't wait around for instructions. Instead, they notice when something slips through the cracks and take initiative to address it. Finally, influence without authority is a major indicator of leadership potential. High potential individuals build credibility with their peers and earn cooperation from colleagues who don't report to them. This ability to influence and collaborate across different parts of the organization is a strong predictor of effective leadership down the line. Together, these behaviors offer us powerful clues about who's ready to step up and drive the organization forward. The 9-box grid is a practical and widely used tool for talent assessment. It maps employees along two key dimensions, current performance and growth potential. By placing individuals in one of the 9 boxes within this 3x3 grid, organizations can clearly identify where each employee stands and tailor their development or management approach accordingly. This method helps in making informed decisions about talent development, succession planning, and workforce strategy. The 9-box grid is a valuable tool for facilitating meaningful conversations among leaders about talent development. It's meant to guide discussions on where to focus development resources, helping us identify who's ready to take on new challenges, who might need additional support, and who could be at risk of disengagement. However, it's important to remember that the grid is not a permanent label or a final judgment on someone's career. Potential assessment are time-bound and can change over time with the right experiences or management. So, every placement on the grid should be seen as a starting point for ongoing development conversations, not a conclusion. Now, let's focus on individual development plans, or IDPs. An IDP is essentially a written agreement between a leader and an employee that clearly outlines the skills the employee aims to build, the experiences they will seek out, and the support the organization commits to providing over a set period of time. The key benefit of a well-constructed IDP is that it shifts performance discussions from simply reviewing past work to actively planning for future growth. This approach not only helps employees develop professionally, but also sends a strong message that the organization is investing in their success. This investment is one of the most powerful factors in retaining high-potential employees. A strong individual development plan starts with a current state assessment, where we document where the employee stands right now. We look at their strengths and identify any gaps compared to their current role, or the one they're being prepared for, using evaluations and 360 feedback to keep this grounded in real evidence. Next, we move to development goals. These should be clear, specific, and time-bound. For example, a goal might be to build stakeholder management skills by leading a cross-functional project review in the second quarter. Then, we outline development activities that support these goals, following the 70-20-10 model. That means most learning comes from hands-on experience, some from relationships and coaching, and a smaller portion from formal training. Finally, it's essential to set milestones and review points through the year. Quarterly check-ins help us track progress and make adjustments as needed, rather than waiting until year-end to evaluate. This approach keeps development dynamic and aligned with changing needs. The 70-20-10 development model is a powerful framework for learning and growth. It suggests that 70% of learning comes from hands-on, real-world experiences. This is where most skill development happens through challenging assignments and problem-solving. Then, 20% comes from interactions with others, like coaching and mentoring, which help refine our abilities and provide valuable feedback. Finally, the remaining 10% is gained through formal training and education, such as courses or workshops. This model emphasizes practical experience as the key driver for development, making it a very effective approach to building skills and advancing careers. A stretch assignment is a powerful development tool that pushes an employee beyond their usual comfort zone. This could involve leading a cross-functional project for the first time, managing a challenging client, or representing the team in a senior leadership meeting. The key idea here is that real learning happens under pressure and with high stakes. It's in these moments that employees gain confidence, build new skills, and earn credibility in ways that formal training simply can't match. Before giving someone a stretch assignment, it's crucial to clearly explain why they were chosen and what kind of support they will receive. Without that context, a stretch can feel like being left to fend for themselves, which we want to avoid. When we talk about development plans, two key approaches are mentoring and coaching. Coaching is a structured, goal-oriented conversation where the coach helps the employee think through challenges and develop their own solutions. The coach primarily asks questions instead of giving direct answers, and it works best when the employee sets the agenda and commits to follow through, with the coach holding them accountable. On the other hand, mentoring is more informal and relationship-based. Here, the employee is paired with someone who has faced similar situations and can provide guidance from their own experience. Mentors share their stories, open doors to new opportunities, and often set part of the agenda themselves, focusing on what they believe the mentee truly needs. Both methods are powerful, but they serve different purposes in personal and professional growth. Succession planning is crucial because it ensures continuity within an organization by identifying and preparing people to step into critical roles before they become vacant. This isn't just about leadership positions. Any role that's hard to fill quickly, holds key knowledge, or is vital to operations should be included. When organizations wait until positions are empty to fill them, they face disruptions, lose valuable institutional knowledge, and take longer to recover. Being proactive with succession planning helps minimize these risks and keeps everything running smoothly. Let's talk about how to identify critical roles within an organization. First, focus on roles with high business impact. These are positions that, if left vacant for more than a few weeks, would significantly disrupt the company's operations. Typically, these are senior leadership roles, but can also include specialist or technical positions that no one else can fill. Next, consider roles with scarce successors. These aren't always senior roles, but they require rare skills. If there's no internal candidate ready to step in and the external talent market is limited, these roles must be prioritized in succession planning. Finally, pay attention to roles held by flight risks. High-performing employees who may be disengaged, recently overlooked for promotion, or recruited externally. Don't wait until they leave to start planning. Proactive succession planning is key here. Building a strong succession pipeline starts with identifying gaps in our leadership and talent pool. Next, we assess the potential and readiness of our people to fill those roles. From there, we develop personalized plans to prepare these individuals through targeted assignments and expanded responsibilities. Finally, we activate the transition by ensuring a smooth handover of duties. Remember, a healthy succession pipeline doesn't just name candidates. It actively nurtures and develops them through regular readiness reviews and meaningful development opportunities. This approach ensures our organization is always ready for the future. Let's talk about readiness levels, which we categorize as now, near, and future. First, a candidate who is ready now can step directly into the role with very little transition support because they've already shown they have the necessary skills and competencies. One big challenge here is making sure this ready now successor stays engaged and motivated while the current role holder is still in place. Next, we have those who are ready in 1 to 2 years. These candidates show potential and ambition but need targeted development experiences before they can fully step up. Our responsibility is to provide these development opportunities well in advance, not waiting until a role actually becomes vacant. Finally, candidates ready in 3 or more years are earlier in their career paths. We're keeping them on our radar to invest in their growth early on, aiming to retain their talent. Their development tends to be broader and more exploratory at this stage, focusing on building a wide range of skills rather than role-specific capabilities. One of the biggest risks in succession planning is losing the very person you've invested so much in developing. When a successor is ready now but sees no movement, they can become frustrated and eventually leave. To avoid this, it's crucial to be transparent about the timeline. Don't leave successors guessing about when they might move up. If you can't provide a specific date, clearly explain what conditions need to change and what actions you're taking. Meanwhile, give them visible leadership opportunities. Assign interim leadership roles, include them on senior committees, or have them lead cross-functional projects. These opportunities demonstrate the organization values them and is preparing them, even if the top role is still filled. Finally, have honest conversations regularly. Check in at least twice a year to understand their intentions and satisfaction. Ask if they're still committed to the path and what the organization can do to keep them engaged. This ongoing dialogue helps retain successors while they wait. Now, let's talk about calibration, which is all about making evaluation fair across teams. Calibration is a process where managers come together to discuss and align their performance ratings before sharing them with employees. Without this, someone considered a high performer in one team might be rated the same as a solid contributor in another, just because managers apply standards differently. Calibration sessions usually happen after managers finish their initial assessments. They review ratings across teams, discuss any outliers, and agree on what each rating level truly means in practice. This ensures consistency and fairness in how performance is evaluated. To run an effective calibration session, start by sharing initial ratings before the session. Have each manager submit their ratings in advance, so the facilitator can see where most ratings cluster and identify any outliers, which helps focus the discussion on the biggest differences. Next, begin by discussing those outliers first. Ask the manager who gave a high or low rating to explain the specific behaviors behind their assessment, and encourage others to share if they've seen similar or different behaviors in similar situations. Then, adjust ratings only when the evidence clearly supports it. Changes should reflect new information or perspectives that align with the agreed standards, and any pressure to change ratings for political reasons should be openly addressed and resisted. Finally, be sure to document the outcome thoroughly. Record the final ratings along with any notes from the discussion to protect both the employee and the organization in case the ratings are questioned later. On this slide, we're looking at common types of bias in performance evaluation. First, recency bias, which happens when evaluators give too much importance to the most recent events in the evaluation period. For example, if an employee struggled in October but did well the rest of the year, they might get an unfairly low rating because the evaluator mainly remembers the recent difficulties. Then, there are the halo and horns effects. The halo effect occurs when one positive trait overshadows everything else, making the evaluator rate all qualities more favorably. On the flip side, The horns effect happens when one negative trait causes all other ratings to be lower. Both of these biases can prevent a fair and accurate assessment of an employee's overall performance. So it's crucial to recognize and minimize them. On this slide, we're looking at more biases to watch for in evaluations. First, there's similarity bias, where evaluators favor people who think and communicate like they do. This bias is a key reason why leadership pipelines often look very homogeneous, and it's surprisingly hard to notice in ourselves. Then, we have attribution error, which is about how success and failure are explained differently depending on who is being evaluated. High-performer successes are usually credited to their abilities, but their failures to outside factors. For lower-rated employees, this pattern flips, leading to a skewed evaluation. Finally, central tendency bias happens when evaluators avoid the extremes of the rating scale, bunching everyone in the middle. This not only blurs the differences in performance, but also leaves top performers feeling undervalued because their exceptional work goes unrecognized. Understanding these biases is crucial for fair and accurate assessments. Today, I want to share a fascinating case study about Google's Project Oxygen. Back in 2008, Google set out to answer a crucial question: do managers actually matter? They analyzed performance reviews, employee surveys, and feedback from over 10,000 managers. This extensive research helped them pinpoint the behaviors that consistently drive team success and boost employee satisfaction. It's a great example of using data-driven insights to improve management and workplace culture. Google's Project Oxygen revealed some really interesting insights about what makes a great manager. The most important quality wasn't technical skills, as many might expect, but being a good coach. This means giving specific, timely, and constructive feedback instead of just waiting for the annual review cycle. The research also showed that managers who avoided difficult conversations tended to have teams with lower engagement and higher turnover. So, avoiding feedback isn't just uncomfortable, it actually poses a real risk to team performance. Project Oxygen reveals some powerful insights for how we approach leadership. One of the key takeaways is that feedback quality strongly predicts team outcomes. Google's data showed that how often and how well a manager gives feedback is one of the best indicators of their team's performance, and this holds true across all industries. Another important point is that technical skill alone isn't enough. Being a great individual contributor doesn't automatically make someone a great manager. In fact, Google found that some of their top technical performers struggled as managers because they focused more on their own work instead of developing their teams. Finally, development can be effectively driven by data. Google took these findings and used them to redesign their management training programs. Over 2 years, they saw significant improvements in manager effectiveness scores, proving that leadership behavior can be trained when it's based on clear, evidence-backed competencies. This shows how data-informed development can really transform leadership. Performance evaluation data is only valuable when it directly informs important decisions. Too often, managers spend a lot of time on assessments that end up just sitting unused, which can cause employees to lose trust and disengage. The key is to make the connection between evaluation and development clear and tangible. If an evaluation highlights a skill gap, the individual development plan should specifically address it. And when potential is spotted, that should kick off conversations about succession planning. Remember, an evaluation isn't the end of the process. It's really the starting point. When it comes to compensation conversations and evaluations, it's important to keep them separate. Many organizations combine performance reviews and salary discussions into one meeting, but research in organizational psychology shows this approach can be counterproductive. When employees know compensation is on the table, their focus tends to shift towards a number rather than the valuable developmental feedback they're receiving. Ideally, these conversations should happen in separate meetings, spaced out by several weeks. That said, separating the conversations doesn't mean we should hide the connection between performance and pay. Employees deserve to understand how their performance ratings affect compensation decisions. Being transparent about the criteria and the overall process is crucial, even if the exact formula is complicated. Lack of clarity about how salary is determined often leads to feelings of unfairness. So clear communication helps build trust and understanding. It's crucial to keep proper documentation, and here's what you should focus on. First, performance records are essential. Make sure to keep written records of all formal evaluations, including ratings, supporting evidence, and agreed-upon development goals. This protects both the organization and the employee if any disputes arise. Next, after each significant feedback conversation, write brief feedback notes summarizing what was discussed and agreed. This not only builds a solid evidence base for formal evaluations, but also helps minimize the effects of recency bias. Finally, for individual development plans, or IDPs, record progress at each check-in. Note what's been accomplished, any obstacles that came up, and updates to the plan. A well-maintained IDP serves as both a development tool and a clear record of the organization's commitment to the employee. In this section, we focus on leading the evaluation conversation, which is just as crucial as the evaluation tool itself. No matter how technically sound the tool is, it will fail if the conversation around it is mishandled. When you hold an evaluation meeting, remember that employees aren't just passive recipients of feedback. They come with their own perspectives, their own data, and their own emotional reactions. Your role as a leader is to facilitate a genuine two-way dialogue, not simply to deliver an objective performance. This approach ensures the conversation is meaningful and productive. When preparing for the evaluation meeting, it's crucial to review the full year and not just recent months. This means going through your notes, project records, and any feedback you received throughout the entire evaluation period. By doing this, you actively counter recency bias by bringing up specific examples from earlier in the year that might otherwise be overlooked. Next, ask the employee to self-assess before the meeting by sending them a self-assessment form. Comparing their self-assessment with your own helps highlight any gaps, which often point to feedback that hasn't been communicated clearly over time. Finally, come prepared with a clear development recommendation for the employee's next steps. This doesn't have to be set in stone, but showing up without any perspective can suggest you haven't given their growth the attention it deserves. During the evaluation meeting, it's important to open with the employee's perspective. Start by asking them to share their own assessment of the year before you share yours. This immediately changes the dynamic from performance delivery to a genuine conversation. It also provides valuable insights you might not have had and shows respect for their own analysis of their work. When you notice significant differences between your assessment and theirs, address those gaps honestly. Don't avoid the discrepancies. Name them directly. For example, you might say, "I noticed you rated yourself significantly higher on stakeholder communication than I did. Let's walk through specific examples that shaped my rating and hear your perspective on each one." This approach keeps the discussion focused on evidence rather than just opinions. It makes the conversation more productive and fair. After the evaluation meeting, it's important to send a written summary within 48 hours. This summary should briefly capture what was discussed and agreed upon, making sure both parties share the same understanding of the outcome. It also starts a documentation trail that's crucial for development planning and any future performance management. Next, update the individual development plan, or IDP, within 2 weeks. If the evaluation reveals new development priorities or even confirms existing ones, the IDP must reflect those changes. Ignoring this step means missing a valuable opportunity to support growth. Finally, schedule the first check-in before leaving the meeting. One of the most common failures is leaving without a follow-up date, which often causes progress to stall. Make sure to put that check-in on both calendars before the meeting ends to keep everything on track. Building a feedback culture means making honest input a natural part of everyday work, not just something that happens during annual reviews. This responsibility starts with leadership, since the behaviors leaders show set the tone for their teams. It's important to understand that you can't enforce this culture through policies alone. Instead, it grows through consistent, genuine feedback exchanges and leaders responding with openness and curiosity rather than defensiveness. Building a strong feedback culture relies on practical habits that everyone can adopt. One key practice is holding regular one-on-one meetings. When managers meet weekly or bi-weekly with each direct report, it creates a reliable and ongoing channel for honest feedback. These meetings need to be consistent and genuinely focus on the employee's work and development to make feedback a natural part of the relationship rhythm. Another important habit is conducting project retrospectives. After each major project, having a short, structured conversation about what went well and what didn't helps normalize performance reflection as a team activity, rather than something that only happens behind closed doors of a manager. Finally, asking for feedback publicly is a powerful way for leaders to encourage openness. When a leader openly asks, "What could I have done differently in that meeting?" it sends a clear message that input is valued from everyone, making the culture of feedback more authentic and ingrained. Here, we're looking at the difference between performance management and performance development. The key point is that the best organizations don't just focus on managing performance or ticking boxes. Instead, they see measurement as a starting point for a meaningful conversation about growth and improvement. This approach shifts the focus from simply meeting standards to actively supporting development and progress. Measurement becomes a tool for growth, not just compliance. This mindset encourages ongoing dialogue and continuous learning, which ultimately leads to stronger performance and employee engagement. To summarize our key learning points, it's crucial to use the right tool for the right purpose. Rating scales, bars, MBO, and 360-degree feedback each fulfill different functions, so matching your tool to what you're measuring in the context is essential. Feedback is most effective when it's specific, timely, and focused on the future. The SBI model helps by providing a repeatable structure that minimizes defensiveness and keeps the conversation grounded in observed behavior rather than personal interpretation. Remember, high potential is not the same as high performance. Use the 3 dimensions of potential, ability, aspiration, and engagement, along with tools like the 9-box grid to make talent decisions with greater precision. Development plans should be living documents. A strong individual development plan follows the 70-20-10 model, includes specific milestones, and is reviewed regularly. An IDP that just sits in a drawer isn't truly a plan. Finally, succession planning must be proactive. Identify critical roles, assess readiness levels, build your talent pipeline through targeted development, and keep your successors engaged while they prepare to step in. These approaches together create a solid foundation for effective talent management and organizational success. Thank you for your time and attention throughout this training. Today, we explored some of the most consequential work a leader does. Seeing people clearly, telling the truth with care, and investing in their growth before the organization needs them to step up. While none of this is simple in practice, each tool and approach we discuss has been thoroughly tested and validated across various industries. The more consistently you apply these methods, the more you'll see real improvements in your team's performance and in your own growth as a leader. Keep learning and stay curious. Leadership and talent management are evolving fields filled with valuable insights that can enrich your daily work and conversations. Here are the key references that have informed this presentation. Foundational sources include seminal works like Garvin's article on management at Google, Lombardo, and Eichinger's Career Architect Development Planner, and the Center for Creative Leadership's SBI feedback model. For performance evaluation and talent management, we drew heavily from comprehensive texts by the Corporate Leadership Council, Polacos, and Aguinis, which offer in-depth frameworks and practical guidance. Additionally, succession planning and development insights come from experts like Rothwell, Goldsmith, and Ryder. It's important to note that while regional sources in Arabic and Gulf context talent management were explored, no peer-reviewed material met our rigorous standards, and this transparency strengthens the credibility of our references. I want to emphasize that this content is intended strictly for training purposes and internal use only. Please use it with caution, as there may be errors present. The author does not take responsibility for any decisions or actions you take based on this information. It's important to apply your own professional judgment when using the strategies and techniques discussed here. Also, this presentation is not a replacement for specialized legal or professional advice. For complex legal or regulatory matters, always consult qualified experts. Lastly, while we have made every effort to ensure accuracy, the information is provided as is, without any guarantees of completeness or timeliness.